There are hordes of people travelling to the hilly terrains of Himachal, Kashmir, Uttarakhand, Ladakh at this time of the year. As years pass by, more and more Indians have the disposable income to spend on leisure and travel. More hotels, more shops, better infrastructure, better roads, adventure sports, all these amenities were not easily available some decades ago. This is a massive boost to the state GDP and also facilitates better infrastructure, creates jobs and increased business opportunities. It is also reflective of India's growing economy and the improvement in the per capita income. The day isn't far away when Gulmarg would be equated to the Swiss Alps, Stade, and all this will be possible with the government will and the enterprising quality of India's young population. Let's start off this conversation. Joining me on the telecast is Sharad Kohli. Sharad, it's heartening to know that there are, as years pass by, there are more and more tourists who are thronging these tourist areas, whether it is Himachal Pradesh or you talk about Kashmir, Ladakh. At this given point of time, I have so many friends. So some of them are in, and any one person at this point of time is in all these states wanting to enjoy the winter season. And this is also reflective of how India and Indians have grown in terms of their disposable incomes, which they have started to spend on a large scale on leisure, on tourism and other such things.
Well, absolutely, Megha. I was wondering when is your holiday due? Because if all your friends are already traveling, then I thought yours must be on the cards.
I've just come back from one. Yes.
Okay, lovely. You had an early holiday. I think there are a few reasons, Megha. One is increase in disposable incomes. The size of the Indian middle class right now is more than the size of the American population, far more than the size of the American population. That's one reason. The kind of disposable incomes with India. And also, there's been a cultural change in terms of, the way Indians spend money. It's not that traditional form of spending money where you just save something for your old age and just lead a very simple life. I think Indians have learned there's a lot of westernization which has happened, and we all understand that you need a break, and we look forward to those long weekends, extended weekends, and of course occasions like Christmas, New Year, Diwali. They are the times when Indians want to be on the move. They want to get out of the routine. It is also indicative of the fact, Megha, that Indians are very hardworking people, and you know why? Because the harder you work, you need a holiday that often. So this is indicative of the fact that they're working hard to party, work hard, party hard. That's the concept that Indians are following, that earn, make money, and also go and spend. So they don't mind spending today, hotels charging $2,000, $3,000 in India is not rare. I mean, look at the hotel rates that the people were traveling, an average rate in a Shimla or a Manali or a Mussoorie would be anything above 10,000 rupees for a basic hotel, a very, very basic hotel. So 10,000 rupees, a 5-figure mark for one night hotel in India some time ago was considered as a luxury.
Yeah.
Today, that is where the hotel rates start from, and then they spend on food, they spend on excursions, they spend on travel. The whole budget for the trip is a massive one. It's no tiny budget.
Right.
So I think the way Indians have started spending has changed. It's a sign of only today on your channel, Megha, I spoke about the fact that by the end of the century, a report has come, India will be the biggest economy in the world. My forecast is that by 2017, India will be the biggest economy. So I think India on the move, economy on the move, and we are on the move to become number 3, 5 trillion. All those milestones, they look so much more gettable. And these tourist influx is only reassuring, Megha.
Absolutely. Coming to Rabinder Sachdev, and I'm going to specifically, those are visuals on your screens actually, people heading to Manali. Something similar was being witnessed on their way to Simla, and thousands and thousands of cars. So there's a complete logjam on the streets. So, and I was talking about how now there is a need to build proper infrastructure surrounding these areas, because you want to attract more and more tourists. And we understand that India is the world's largest population. And we also understand the fact that when there are more tourists who are going to be thronging a region, there is going to be creation of jobs. There is going to be business opportunities that are going to be exploited. There are hotels, there are restaurants, there are other significant projects that are going to be built up. Today, as we look at Switzerland, or we take a look at European nations, you go to Norway, you go to Germany, you are attracted by the scenic views, and there is no dearth of them in India as well. How do we promote them better for the international tourists to then throng India?
Well, thank you, Megha. A great discussion, great topic, actually. Yeah, I mean, some things obvious, but a lot more. One of the things, see, the European destinations have is branding, or a certain character image associated with each of them, right? Or several of them. So that's something we need to have more and more coming out of India. What is this particular, location known more for? The culture, as Charit was talking. I mean, of course, Indians have started having this culture of going out and, lifestyle changes. But I'm talking from the cultural other perspective, if we are talking about foreign visitors and tourists coming to India. The other thing is that, you see, you have these like Kullus, the picture you're showing. In fact, I was just watching, right? I was talking to a travel influencer earlier in the day, and she had a great point. She said, even for domestic tourists, don't go to the well-known number one touristy place. Don't go to Kullu. Maybe go to some place nearby. Find out nearby places. But what that means is that there is scope and need for decentralization in a way, if we could say, have a hub spoke or whatever distributed, more and more touristy and spots with culture of a certain type, nightlife of a kind. Example pertinent, the gift city, not from tourism, but the gift financial center in Gujarat, and Gujarat is a dry state, has now, just 2 days ago, allowed that liquor would be served in the gift city, right? And this had been going on for the last 15 years because the place was not catching up. Because for things you need a certain culture, a certain lifestyle and all. So kind of having places and spots which are, happening, and happening could be diverse thing. It could be religious pilgrimage, it could be party places, it could be, some adventure tourism and all. But the point is, this whole industry, if we were to see, has to, I think, spread out, get decentralized, distributed, and in that process, create so many opportunities for our entrepreneurs and economy itself. And then branding and security and all. I mean, we need to improve our image and security. Absolutely, in an overall sense, that places wherever we are more secure, because security is a huge thing for any tourist going anywhere.
Akash, coming back to you, as Rabinder Sachdev said, and very rightly so, there has to be awareness that needs to be created. There has to be this attraction that needs to be made surrounding an area, whether it is Kashmir or Manali or Kullu, or we go to Simla, we go to Ladakh, we go to Spiti. These areas are beautiful and perhaps even lesser known as compared to the other international tourist destinations that people want to go to. You go to Maldives and you go to Mauritius and you go to the Alps, and those are the world-class tourist destinations as they are touted to be, and they work their magic simply because they are branded in such a way. And how can there be? And there is. Do you think there's enough funds allocated for tourism-related development that is being done in all these states, in all these cities, in all these regions? I understand there are a number of campaigns. You talk about Incredible India, you talk about Madhya Pradesh, you talk about all these state machinery is putting in funds. But what more can be done?
Definitely, Megha. I think a very nice way to start this discussion. Yes, I think funds are being put in, but lot more needs to be done. Because what happens is, on one hand, we see a lot of people going to Manali, a lot of people going to Nainital and other places. But on the other hand, we see traffic jams, people waiting in cars for 3 hours, 4 hours. So I think one is awareness. Awareness needs to be created on an international level, that we can have global tourists, we can have forex, because that would not only add to GDP, GST, taxation collection, that would add a lot of foreign exchange also, plus decent branding for India. But number one, what we need to have is decent infrastructure at all these places. That if global tourists come in, they don't have to wait. They don't have to get in a traffic jam for 3 hours, 4 hours, going to Manali or Nainital, other places. So I think a responsible
infrastructure. But why for global? Why for international tourists? Why not for domestic tourists? Why treat yourselves as second-class citizens in your own country?
No, I'm coming to that. Now, domestic tourists also, what we need to do is, Now, yes, a lot of tourists are going, a lot of people are traveling, and from a nation of savers, we have become clearly a nation of spenders. Our lifestyle thinking has changed, the way we spend has changed, the way we used to save has changed. Definitely, there's a change, but we lack in one thing, Megha. Now, when I used to be in college, then only the hill station which I knew was Mussoorie, Nainital, Manali. Now again, only those are the popular hill stations. What we need to do is think beyond these hill stations. Now, if you talk about Himachal, there are so many other hill stations which need to be developed. So we need to create awareness. We need to, the government needs to work with tourist department, because there are so many other beautiful places in Himachal Pradesh, which could be used as hill stations. Similarly, you mentioned Gulmarg. Now, I was amongst the lucky few who could travel to Gulmarg, Sonmarg, Pahalgam in 1987, 1 year prior to terrorism being there. Now, all that distance of 70 kilometers, 60 kilometers, 2-3 hours, there are so many beautiful places which have not been developed. So we have to have much more Nainitals, much more Manalis, much more Gulmargs, and many hill stations can be developed, because we see Himachal, our Kashmir, then Uttarakhand, part of UP. There are so many hilly areas, but number of hill stations are lesser. Britishers discovered certain hill stations. We are using those hill stations only. Now in Himachal, there could be at least 10 to 12 beautiful hill stations which could be developed.
Okay, so explore these lesser visited sites, lesser visited areas, because they retain the natural beauty. But also there's a flip side, Charat Kohli, because these regions are so exploited, there is such a large number of footfall that they've become commercialized. A lot of people say, oh, we don't want to go to a commercial place, we'd rather want to be in the natural beauty of the place, the quiet, the beautiful, the greenery. And how do we maintain a balance here?
Megha, when you analyze the category of tourists, you have to divide them into 2-3. One is, of course, the tourists who like the hustle bustle. They would like to be on a mall road. They would like a market. There is another category of tourists, as you rightly said, who want a very quiet environment. They don't want to be in hustle bustle. They are already, they go through the grind and they want to just be isolated or secluded or probably on a work from anywhere concept or whatever. They want to live separately. Then there is this third class of tourists, who would like to have some fun, entertainment, and, places of excursion. So I think each hill station or each such place has to identify these 2-3 tourists. And some of the, tourist destinations I know, for example, let's take Mussoorie. Now, Mussoorie has, there is a hotel which is about 15 kilometers away, which is more secluded, more isolated. It's got a spa where you can relax for a fortnight, week, whatever. And there is the mall road. So there are a lot of these hotels in the mall road. And you also need to appreciate the fact that tourists come from different budget backgrounds. There is somebody who can, as I said, who can probably spend 10,000 a night. There's another tourist who can spend 70,000-80,000 a night. There is another tourist who can probably spend 5,000 a night. So I think the hill stations have to be very strategically planning their townships to make sure that they are able to attract people with all kinds of pockets. That's another thing. The second thing is, I think a planned mechanism needs to in place. What I'm seeing right now on your screen is a massive traffic jam where people stop for 4 to 5 hours to get into I think, so this is speaking of unplanned visits. So why can't people who already have a booking in a hotel go there? I mean, if somebody goes without a booking, I find most of the tourists, they just land up there and you have these touts, saab hotel chahiye, aapko kamra chahiye. That, I think that
because you have that category of tourists as well, and you cannot ignore them. Like I said, there's you talk about various classes of tourists, but then at the end of the day, the larger market is controlled by these middle class. They have the disposable income right now, and they are the larger percentage of the population. So that's the target. And then, like I said, how do we build the infrastructure around these regions to cater to this population, to cater to this set of tourists? Because when you're having road blockades, you're not being able to move to enter into the territory, to enter into a state, and you're stranded over there to 3 to 4 hours. That becomes a hiccup.
So precisely, the problem itself, Megha, is offering, when you're highlighting these problems, you're also highlighting the solution. There is an inbuilt solution to that. So all you need to do is just to plan. Even the middle class, Megha, everybody has got a smartphone. We've got 70 to 75 crore smartphones in the country. And I believe the people who are traveling to these hill stations, they at least have one smartphone between the family, if not all of them, although all of them carry, even the children carry, but at least one smartphone. So all you need is open a travel site, just make the booking and go. I'm not saying that middle class people are not making the booking. They are making the booking, but many of the tourists who are going, they are going without booking, which is causing the chaos. So if the municipal corporation of the particular township knows that I'm expecting 10,000 tourists today on this weekend, they can probably make sure and they can plan accordingly. But suddenly, 1 lakh people land in the thing. I think the traffic police of the local area, the administration of the particular town, they all get confused. They don't know what to do. So when I spoke to them, they said, sir, we were not expecting these many tourists. So it is either lack of anticipation or lack of town planning or some mistake on part of the tourists as well, Megha.
Okay, Rubinder Sachdev, is it even practically feasible with a population of 1.4 crore people, a larger percentage of them the middle class and the poor class, with now getting more and more disposable income in hand, to then stop them, make it more systematic? Because I remember, I don't know, a decade or 2 decades ago, 25 years ago, if I was at, we used to just at the drop of a hat decide, make a plan and go to Simla, and this was just a few hours drive, and it really did, and we would never see any chaotic scenes. We would not see traffic jams, and even the hotels and restaurants that we would visit would not have crowds. The scene has completely changed. I don't know, I have not been to Simla in a really long time. I would rather not, because, and at particularly this time of the season. So like as I see, circuitous routes and roads filled with cars, is there a practical way to deal with this? Because when you go to the mountains, there's only as much of a width of a road that can be built. So how do we resolve it? Are you going to bring in chopper services? And then if you bring in chopper services, obviously this is only managing a particular strata of the society.
So true, Amin. What you said is what the answer I'm giving also, or all of us will be on this panel. The basic thing, as you said, you see, whichever way, density. I think bottom line, one, it comes down to the density of how much population or buildings or hotel rooms, etc., how many cars on a road. It's a question of basic density can be there for any one destination. And as the numbers grow up, country's population has grown, our average incomes have grown, our lifestyles have changed, our aspirations have changed, due to which we want to spend more and more and experience more outside. So obviously these numbers are getting to be humongous. One way out possibly is definitely maybe, which I think is to promote decentralized more locations, right? Around these, maybe a cluster, maybe somewhere 20 kilometers from Manali or another one, which are not so well known, so that more people start going towards those destinations rather than the 1 or 3 which we knew always in North India, Nainital, Mussoorie, and Shimla would remain the same. There should be more of such destinations. One. Second, partly, in terms of how cities or locations attract foreign, let's say, tourists, because we want that also to come in for our foreign exchange earnings. You see, once again, I'll go back to I think Sharadji touched upon it, like the planning, the town planning, the urban planning. See, it depends. Europe, for example, I or maybe some of us love to hang out because the center of the town is set up in such a way in most cities, right? There are huge courtyards, you sit out there. There are cafes all around, have a coffee, people coming, going, etc. So that's the kind of a culture which is out there. So
but also, their population must be like 1/50th or 1/70th of India's population. And you talk about, while there are more and more Indians who are making these foreign trips, which is only a very tiny small percentage of Indians who are traveling abroad.
By the way, I was just reading a number today. Trade or Tourism Australia is projecting that by the year 2030, there will be 50 million Indian tourists going internationally. That is some number apparently they've come up with in this thing. By 2030, there will be 50 million Indian travelers or tourists going abroad. So that's a huge number, over a period of time. Right. But back again, it's again urban planning. It's to a large extent, I think, urban planning, infrastructure, and maybe some policies there could be, I wouldn't say something like an odd even imposed, or only if you have a booking, only then you can proceed beyond this point. I think that may not be possible or would
Yeah.
be difficult to do. So we will continue to see these crowdings. Maybe people, it'll be self-corrective. I think the publics, we
Yeah, I
ourselves,
agree.
people
Yes.
would now say that, okay, now, no more Nainital. This season is very crowded. Maybe I go somewhere else. So let that spread and distribution start happening. But that will happen only if the infrastructure and investments come into creating other locations, venues, infrastructures where folks can go.
Okay. Coming back to you, Akash, then when we talk about, lakhs and lakhs of people who are at this point of time in all these hilly terrains in the northern part of or the eastern part of the country, there is flow of income for all these states, for all these regions, and then it is, like I said, it is naturally that there is going to be infrastructure that is going to be built. When there is money pumping in, and you are a state that is heavily reliant on tourism, you are then going to funnel in all the money, maximum of it, for touristic attractions, for development that is going to align itself with tourism. And this is something that is going to happen simultaneously. I don't think there is some massive strategy that needs to be built in.
I think, Megha, what happens is responsible infrastructure, because we shouldn't forget last year what happened in Uttarakhand. There were cracks because some hotels, some buildings were made without sanctions and all that. So I think there should be, I totally endorse you, we must have more and more infrastructure. But there should be experts and there should be more planning into the infrastructure so that we don't even spoil the topography of hills, plus people can go and enjoy. And one thing more, which I have seen is, now today we are talking about hotels being for their 10,000 rupees, 12,000 rupees, but still anybody who goes, he gets a hotel room. But the problem has been with traffic jams. Now Delhiites, the lovely city where all of us stay, they have a habit of, that includes me also, taking their personal cars to all these places because they can drive to Manali, Nainital or Mussoorie. I think public conveyance is one reply. Had it been public conveyance, then there wouldn't have been that much jams.
Right.
So one is railway stations. If we can have railway stations at the plain location which is near to this. Nainital, I remember the place, perhaps Kathgodam, I don't know whether I'm right with the name on that. That has a railway station. From there, one can get into a taxi. So if we can have railway stations at the plains near to these hill stations, and from there one can get into taxis, that is a better way. So I think public conveyance, better rail
and some of our
infrastructure
hill stations are the most beautiful railway stations and the most scenic areas that they traverse through. And that obviously needs to be encouraged. I'm sorry, Jaijit Bhattacharya, I didn't see you in the panel. I'm going to quickly come to you, and of course your opinion here in terms of our growing economy, the growing stature, per capita income, the GDP. How does this all translate into tourism and leisure that India is witnessing on such a large scale?
Yeah, I think we are giving a positive spin in spite of the pictures that are being shown here. So the moment an economy...
No, of course, I'm definitely talking about the positives of this. Although the roads are clogged, although the hotels and the restaurants are full, I'm talking about was this the case 20 years ago? And we have the disposable income. We have at this point of time an ability to spend 50,000 to 1 lakh for a single trip, and that is we are not even talking about this is an upper middle class or a higher class who's looking to spend. This is a middle class or a lower middle class who's happy to spend that amount.
Sure. So in any economy, the moment the per capita income crosses $2,000, there is a hockey curve growth that happens. And India crossed that line quite a few years back. And so we are nearing $3,000 per capita. So it is, but given that the disposable income will be going up, and given the sheer population that we have, there will be a significant demand for tourism, even if it's 0.1% of the population that is able to afford it, there will be a huge demand. I think if you look at the failures over here, I see multiple failures. One, as one of the other panelists also mentioned, that in the last 70 years, we have not really had any new tourism destination. For that matter, we have not even had any new cities, except for maybe Gift City, a Naya Raipur, a Kalyan, and that's about it. Similarly, in terms of tourist destinations or hill stations, we have not really come out with many new tourist destinations. Also, if you notice that there are so many people going in peak winter to another cold place. So possibly they're going there for maybe to watch the snow. But the other failure that is pushing them out is the sheer pollution in Delhi. They just want to run away from Delhi and go somewhere where they can breathe some clean air. So that's a few sets of failures, and the way we are swamping the hills, that is clearly not responsible tourism. We need to have some check and balance. No matter how much of infrastructure we put in, we will not be able to cater to this velocity and magnitude of tourists who are coming in. The positive side obviously is there. It's going to contribute to growth. To growth, it'll contribute to infrastructure getting built. But even if you look at Delhi as a place, which is the national capital of this mighty country, there isn't a single street which can be called world class in this entire city. And then we are setting up these tourism destinations.
Is it really? Because of course, there's been transformation that has happened, particularly during G20, and even before that. I see the transformation. I actually see. I don't know. I've not ventured into North Delhi or West Delhi, but I was of course traveling to the airport, being in Central Delhi, being also in South Delhi. There are tremendous changes that have happened. The pavements are at this point in time beautifully lit up. You have these flyovers, and on the underpasses you have graffiti and beautiful graffiti. So I'm saying the beautification works. The look and feel of a city. You can actually see. It's just it's the kind of perception that you get when entering, and not just that. I was in Jaipur, and I saw similar sort of development work. If I was traveling in Jaipur, I felt that it was a rich city to be in. It was a kind of perception that was being given by the state governments, by the work that has been done, by the PWD department, that you feel that yes, you have come to a city and it's a beautiful city, and effort has been made to beautify it. And that's what the person, whether a domestic traveler or a foreign traveler, will take away from your city.
So, I've been involved in fact, not just involved, I was driving the smart city project for New Delhi Municipal Council, which is the central part of Delhi. So the word I used, the qualifying word is it world class or not? When we have the streets, there are certain parameters, standards that needs to be followed. Certain, for example, the pavements that we're talking about, the moment the pavements are put, immediately the cars can come on top of it. There isn't a continuous set of, 100 feet, 200 feet, pavement, which you can actually walk through. So what is a pavement for becomes a question mark. And keep in mind, we are the fifth largest economy in the world and soon to become third largest economy in the world. And so that needs to be reflected. I'm all for having better cities, and that's what I'm asking for. Surely a lot of initiatives have been taken. But the point I'm again driving at is that when the infrastructure is not there, there's no standardization of what is the width of a lane. There are lanes within main roads of the city which suddenly become from 2 meter to 0.5 meter, and we're still maintaining a 3-lane road, but that lane is not drivable. And same is what contributes to these jams that we see happening when people are moving out of Delhi. Now, for sure, between Delhi and Chandigarh on the way to Shimla, a wonderful road has been built up, and that's what has cut down the travel time to Chandigarh from 6 hours to about 4 hours if you don't stop. And therefore, from Chandigarh to Shimla, you can reach that place in another 5 hours. In 9 hours, you are able to reach Shimla. So yes, those things are being done. But again, within that, you will see certain portions of the road which just has not been completed, because the moment that part is built, from a civil engineering perspective, there's a landslide that happens, and it continuously keeps happening.
Okay, all right,
so
fair enough. Fair enough, you're making those points, relevant points. But okay, at the same time, like I said, when there is inflow of funds that is coming in to the state exchequer, despite the corruption, despite the red tape, despite a lag in developing the city, the state, with the sheer force of numbers, the funds that are pouring in, there is then the offset that takes place in terms of the infrastructure, the business development, the jobs that are created, that it becomes a cyclical upward trajectory that the state or a city or a region takes in. On that note, I'm out of time, but I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.